When we talk about the world's oceans, we're referring to vast, deep, and largely unexplored territories. Despite our limited knowledge, we've had countless encounters with the incredible creatures that inhabit these depths. From the most powerful apex predators to massive unknown beings, here are the 20 largest sea creatures to have ever existed. Number 20. Pliosaurus. The Pliosaurus is arguably one of the more classic extinct species of the deep that you see in various documentaries about the ancient periods of the world and such. They have the classic body type with their long body, massive flippers, elongated head, and more. It looks like something that can move through the water with serious ease. Another key thing about the species is that there are many versions of them, and they all have different sizes. The largest of the lot can measure in between 13 to 14 meters, which is quite impressive. As for its flippers, it used them in sets to ensure that it could maneuver through the water with ease and then pour on the speed when it was going after its prey. Number 19. Shastasaurus. While the last creature that we had was kind of big, the Shastasaurus was one of the largest known creatures of its kind, and that's saying something. This thing was 21 meters in length. Just between its flippers, it was 7 meters, which should really give you a highlight of just how monstrous that the thing must have looked in the ancient waters of the world. And yet, when you further observe the body, you're going to realize that it wasn't meant for biting food to death. Instead, it was a suction feeder. Some would dispute that, but it's cool to think about it either way. After all, this would put this ancient dinosaur along the lines of certain whales of our current age who have the mass but not the aggressive streak. Number 18. The blue whale. It's a bit ironic that it took us a couple of entries in order to get to the blue whale, and the reason that I say that is because the blue whale is technically the largest animal in the world's history that we know of right now. Just as a note, I'm saying largest in the multiple dimension sense. There are creatures that were longer than the blue whale, especially during the age of dinosaurs, but in terms of sheer mass, it is the biggest to ever exist. Apparently, now if you're curious as to how big that it is, the longest ones around can weigh about 200 tons, and that's a whole lot. As for its length, it is something that has been debated quite a bit over the years. There have been all kinds of unconfirmed claims made about the species' length, but the one that is most agreed upon is that they can get up to about 30 meters. So yes, that's a really long creature that you will find in today's world. One of the greater ironies of the blue whale is that it's incredibly large yet also incredibly gentle. It's the definition of the gentle giant, and it doesn't mind having that label in the slightest. It's more concerned about helping out its pod and migrating from one area to the next than doing anything else that even resembles being mean. And of course, the darker irony here is that people don't actually care about that and have hunted them down for quite some time for their oils, meats, and more. Even when whaling was curbed or downright outlawed, it continued on. Fast forward to now, and the threats that they face are still numerous, which is why we have to be better about taking care of our oceans, or else we may end up losing this incredible creature amongst many others. Number 17. Dunkleosteus. From a gentle giant to an armored tank, we'll now talk about the Dunkleosteus. And no, I'm not exaggerating at all when I said that it's an armored tank. When scientists found the fossils, it had an armored body, and that came in handy in more ways than one. First, it protected the forward parts of the creature, which meant that it could take blows from rivals without a whole lot of issue. However, those armored plates also helped it with its biting power, and it had a biting ability of over 3,000 kilograms of force. That puts it on par with some of the most powerful creatures to have ever roamed the earth on land or in the water. And as for its length, there is a debate about how long that it actually could be. Some felt that it could have been about 10 meters in length, while others say it's more accurate to have been about half of that. Either way, could you just imagine having to deal with this kind of creature in the deep? If it did live today, it's quite possible that it could have been a nightmare for ships, as its armored body would have been more than able to either puncture or pierce the hull of one of them with either its head or its jaw. Thankfully, it is extinct, so we don't have to worry about it anymore, but if it could evolve to be like that, well, it means that others could get an armored form given enough time. Number 16. The Tylosaurus. There's plenty of irony when it comes to the Tylosaurus, but the biggest one is that it's actually part of a species that we'll be talking about in a bit. However, this one is different from that future entry because it's a derived version of that species, meaning that it came late into the evolutionary cycle while also developing some unique features of its own. As for its size, it's estimated to have been about 14 meters in length, if not a bit bigger, and the body was said to be incredibly streamlined. When you look at the skeleton for the creature, it looks menacing without the flesh, and some creatures are just born scary. Number 15. Colossal squid. Now I'm going to dive deep into one of the inspirations behind the Kraken mythical creature, and that would be the colossal squid. There are plenty of reasons why the creature may have scared the bejesus out of all of the sailors that it came across during their time in the water. First and foremost, it's a massive being. The upper estimates of the creature say that it could reach about 14 meters in length, and we haven't seen too many of them in the water, so nobody can say for certain just how big they get. To help prove that, humans did not officially find this colossal squid until 1925. Then it would not be until 1981 that they were able to gather up an adult version of the colossal squid, and the largest one that we ever officially caught was from 2007. So yes, we may not be as in the know about this creature as we are about others in the deep, but what we do know might actually terrify you. For example, the colossal squid has the biggest eyeball in the entire world. The largest one that was ever measured was 40 centimeters, and that definitely sees you with that thing. And it can also be a rather bulky squid, with the largest one captured at being over 1,000 kilograms. However, scientists feel that it could reach even bigger. However, in spite of it all, you need to understand that there have been no official reports of one of these squids ever attacking a boat or even a sailor. They are big and mighty, but unless you give them a reason to, they are more than likely going to leave you alone. Now it's time for today's topic. Footage and images are going viral on social media as the Australian Coast Guard reportedly captured what could be the largest great white shark ever recorded. The massive creature was spotted by a patrolling rescue helicopter off the coast of Western Australia, and its sheer size left even experienced marine experts in disbelief. At first glance, the giant silhouette beneath the waves appeared to be a great white shark, but further analysis has led to debate. Marine biologists say the proportions don't match any known great white, as this creature is far larger than the biggest sharks ever documented. Theories have erupted online, with some suggesting it could be a new species of deep-sea predator, while others claim it might be evidence of the long-extinct Megalodon. Experts from Australian marine research institutes are currently analyzing the footage, but without physical proof, the mystery remains. Some skeptics argue that optical illusions and lighting effects could exaggerate the shark size. But one thing is certain, whatever was lurking beneath those waters was unlike anything seen before. Number 14. Basilosaurus. Remember how I talked about the sperm whale being an aggressive whale? Well, here's another one from the ancient period of history, the Basilosaurus. One of the largest creatures of its time, it was known to be between 18 and 20 meters in length. And when you look at the jaws that the thing had, well, you wouldn't want to be bitten by it ever. Yet it wasn't as heavy as you may think, as it was only about 6.5 metric tons, so go figure. Even still, if you did live in those ancient waters, it was a creature that you were on the lookout for. Number 13. A massive swordfish. Given that I've talked about all manner of fish, both big and small, on this list, why don't I end things by talking about a catch that was truly huge and something that you could possibly get yourself if you were lucky? I'm talking about the swordfish. These are one of those truly unique catches of the deep blue sea, as they start out looking like normal fish until you get to their heads, and that's when you see their giant noses that can really be as sharp as a sword. And thus, you have to look out for them. Even if you do catch one, you'll have to be on the lookout because they could still skewer you as they flounder around on your deck. In the case of one man from 2019, he caught a swordfish that was almost 350 kilograms, which is absolutely huge. And if you have a look at these pictures, well, the thing is massive in all the ways that matter. But that's not the truly shocking part of the story. The real story is that the man was so dedicated to getting the swordfish once it was on the reel, he spent 8 hours trying to get it into the boat. Some of you may think that that's absurd, but it's a bit more nuanced than that. In fact, it's something that happens quite often with catches of this size. You have to think about it. It's a massive fish weighing in at 3 to 4 times more than the person catching it. The reel is strong, but the fisherman or angler has to be smart and slowly bring it in. They have to work with the rod, the line, the fish itself, everything so that it won't break the line and be able to escape or get to a position where it's even harder to pull it in. So yes, sometimes an 8-hour stint on the reel is necessary, and that's why some anglers bring in backup to help relieve them so that they can rest and be ready for the next charge. Number 12. Sperm whales. Now I'll jump into modern times to talk about one of the other big modern whales of the world, the sperm whale. Contrary to the blue whale, which is noted as being a gentle giant, the sperm whale is absolutely not. In fact, it is the largest of the toothed whales and the largest toothed predator in the world today. I'm not saying that it will go after a human unless it's provoked, but it's not the whale that you want to risk time around. That goes double when you hear that they can be over 16 meters in length at times, and when you add that to their body mass, and that's a whole lot of bulk that it can throw around if it wants to, and it often wants to. In fact, it's so good and such a great predator that it has absolutely no true rival. Number 11. Elasmosaurus. When you learned about dinosaurs in school, you probably remember the land dinosaurs that had all of those massive necks that seemed to stretch on forever. Well, this one is the water version of that via the Elasmosaurus. As you can see, it was a creature that was indeed huge but was also comprised largely of its neck, measuring it over 10 meters in length at times. You can do your best to calculate just how much of that is in the neck, and here's a hint. That would be about 7 meters. Some scientists theorize that the long neck allowed the Elasmosaurus to sneak up on schools of fish without disturbing the water too much, making it an effective ambush predator. Others suggest that the neck might have been used to reach into crevices or coral reefs to grab prey that other marine reptiles couldn't access. Interestingly, its neck was not very flexible, as the vertebrae were tightly packed, meaning it likely moved its entire body to position its head rather than bending its neck like a snake. Fossil evidence also shows that the Elasmosaurus had sharp, interlocking teeth, perfect for gripping slippery prey like fish and squid. Despite its size, it was likely a slow swimmer, relying on stealth and its long reach to catch food rather than speed. Its paddle-like limbs were well suited for gliding through the water, but they didn't provide the burst of speed seen in other marine predators. This unique combination of traits makes the Elasmosaurus one of the most fascinating marine reptiles of its time. But the kicker is, despite us knowing how long the necks were, we don't actually know why they were that long, and the obvious assumption is for that of feeding, but it's hard to know for sure. It is an absolutely massive creature and no doubt equally dangerous. Number 10. The Megalodon. Next, I'm going to talk about one of the largest predators in the history of the world, and that would be the Megalodon. That's right, I'm talking about one of the largest sharks to ever exist, and this one was the largest carnivorous shark to ever swim in the deep. For context, the whale shark is said to have been bigger, but even that's a bit debatable. In fact, the true size of the Megalodon is one of the most intensely debated things ever when it comes to this shark. That's because we don't have a full skeleton of one because the fossilization process is not the best when it comes to sharks. We do know that it did exist because there have been numerous fossils of its teeth, and those teeth are absolutely huge. You could actually wear them like a pendant. They are that huge at times. As such, the size of the sharks vary from anywhere between 10.5 meters to 20.7 meters, which is quite the gap, and that's just doing the best estimate with the fewest errors in logic. Now, yes, scientists don't know everything, but what they do know for sure is that this shark wasn't only massive, it was rather ravenous to the point where some felt that it had to eat tons of food in the literal weight sense just to satiate its hunger. Plus, between its razor-sharp teeth, which it had in great number, and the bite force that it possessed, it was a shark that could just about kill anything. And if you're not catching my drift, it means that it was an apex predator of the oceans. Given all of that information, you may wonder why this shark isn't around anymore, and there are two generally accepted reasons for its extinction. The first is that the climate of the world was changing due to an extinction-level event, and that limited where it could actually go in the world's oceans. Then, as its ecosystem changed and other species died out, it just couldn't get the food it needed to survive, and as such, it went extinct. But there are some people today who still feel that the Megalodon exists, and that's why you see plenty of B-movies about its potential emergence in our oceans. Number 9. Chronosaurus. Despite the name, this was not one that could control time. That would be an absolutely scary thing indeed. It actually comes from a family of dinosaurs that are known for being incredibly long, and as I will note many times in this video here on the thought trail, how big they actually are is up for debate. The general scientific consensus is that they were between 9 and 13 meters in length, which makes them pretty big and something that we should all be glad is not in our current world. Fossil evidence suggests that their long, slender bodies were built for speed and agility, allowing them to chase down prey with surprising efficiency. Their sharp, serrated teeth were perfectly designed for slicing through flesh, making them formidable predators in their ecosystem. Some paleontologists believe that they hunted in packs, using coordinated attacks to take down prey much larger than themselves. Their long skulls also housed powerful jaw muscles, giving them an incredibly strong bite force that could crush bones with ease. Interestingly, their fossilized remains have been found in a variety of locations, indicating that they were highly adaptable and could thrive in different environments. This adaptability likely contributed to their success as predators during their time. Despite their fearsome reputation, some researchers speculate that they may have also scavenged when the opportunity arose, making them opportunistic feeders. Just as interesting was that they had very long skulls, and those skulls had 6 pairs of teeth that were waiting to eat its prey with vigor. In fact, many feel that they went after rather large prey, which just goes to prove that some animals had really big appetites back then. Number 8. Lion's mane jellyfish. As has already been proven on this list, size is not about being huge in all the ways that matter. You can be long or wide or even thick. It just depends on which direction you wish to keep on going in. For the lion's mane jelly, the direction that it loves to go in is length, as it's one of the longest creatures on this list by a large margin, if not the longest, depending on how you want to look at it. One of the ironies of the creature is that we know about its massive measurements from a rather distant time period, as it was captured and then measured in 1865, and the results were astounding. In regard to its bell, which is the largest part of its body, it was just over 2 meters in length, which is pretty good. However, when they measured its tentacles, they ended up being 36.6 meters in length, so yes, that is a really long set of tentacles. Then, when you look at how the body is formed, things get even more interesting, as the bell of the lion's mane is divided into 8 lobes, which gives the look of an 8-pointed star. Each lobe contains about 70 to 150 tentacles arranged in 4 fairly distinct rows, and it's those rows that make up the massive length of the jellyfish, which presents some rather unique opportunities and challenges for those who come to its range. After all, when you're dealing with a thin tentacle, you might not even see them coming until you're just into them, and when that happens, you're going to get stung. The good news is that the sting isn't known to be fatal or even do serious damage. They can cause some serious stinging, and you don't want to get stung many times over, but you can say that about any jellyfish that you come across. To help prove how dangerous this singular jellyfish's long tentacles are, in Australia in 2010, a dead jellyfish actually stung over 150 beachgoers that came across its body. Number 7. Helicoprion. Now I'm going to talk about a creature that was indeed big in its own right, but I'm discussing it more about what it specifically looked like versus just its large size. Based on some of the teeth that have been found, this creature could have been well over 7 meters in length, which would have placed it on par with many sharks in the world today. However, the thing that sets it apart more than anything else in the deep, both then and now, was its mouth and how its teeth were arranged. Specifically, I'm talking about how the teeth were arranged in a configuration that, along with the shape of its mouth, made it look like this shark had a buzzsaw as a mouth. And it's not just projections that show this or something along those lines. We do know this because of the actual fossil record of the creature, which arguably makes it even more insane. Why in the world did this creature look like this? Why did it need to have a mouth like that, and why did it evolve into forming a mouth like that in the first place? Nobody really has the answers, and that's what makes it all the more crazy that this creature did truly exist. And as for its longer teeth, while they were said to be about 10 centimeters in length, so just imagine a whole bunch of those on a tooth whorl of sorts. It is a terrifying picture to try and comprehend, and we should all be glad that sharks don't look like that today because we have enough to worry about from them anyways. Number 6. Leedsichthys. I've shown you plenty of creatures that look like certain ones from today's world, and I'll add to that by showing you this one, which apparently was an ancient kind of ray-finned fish, aka a kind of bony fish. Like with others on this list, the estimated length of the creature such as this varied widely, with some saying that it would only get about 9 meters in length, while others felt that it would be more like 30. This prehistoric ocean giant, which swam in the seas about 165 million years ago during the Jurassic period, could reach an estimated length of about 50 to 60 feet, which is about the size of a school bus. But despite its monstrous size, it was not a fearsome predator like a shark or a mosasaur. Instead, it was more like today's baleen whales using gill rakers, think of them as underwater filters, to sift through the water and eat tiny plankton. It spent its days gliding through the oceans, gulping down vast amounts of krill, jellyfish, and small fish. Because its skeleton is mostly cartilage like a shark, not much of it fossilized quite well, so it's actually up for debate on the real true size of the creature. It likely went extinct due to changes in the marine ecosystem, possibly competition from other fish along with shifts in plankton population. But whatever the reason, by the time that the Cretaceous period rolled around, this one was gone, leaving behind only its massive and scattered bones. Number 5. Livyatan. Remember the Megalodon that I talked about from before? Well, there's one thing that I didn't mention that kind of makes it all the more intriguing, and that is that it was an apex predator of the ancient waters, which it absolutely was. The thing that I didn't mention is that many people felt that it had a singular rival known as the Livyatan, or as you might call it by its more popular pop culture name, the Livyatan. Now, believe it or not, this was an ancient version of a sperm whale, and it was named after the biblical creature and the infamous whale from the Moby Dick book. Inspiration can come from all walks of life. Based on certain bones that have been discovered, scientists believe that it could have been over 17 meters in length, which would have put it in the realm of the Megalodon in terms of its size, and so it could have been something that competed against it for territory or even the same food supply. And before you go thinking whales don't fight sharks, well, they certainly do, especially when they have a feeling that they're not going to lose. If they were rivals, one could only wonder what kind of clash between these two would have looked like, or if having them both in the same bodies of water may have hastened their demise in the end. Sadly, we'll not find out unless we get more evidence of their coexistence and the clashes that they may have had. Number 4. Ichthyosaurus. When you look at the Ichthyosaurus of the ancient world, you might feel the urge to say, wow, that looks like a prehistoric dolphin. And yes, that resemblance can be striking, minus the extra set of fins at the bottom of its body. But what will likely blow your mind is that not only were the Ichthyosaurus a rather diverse and wide-ranging species via their size, the maximum size was said to be about 26 meters in length, which makes for a really, really big dolphin. Fossil evidence shows that ichthyosaurs were incredibly well adapted to life in the water, with streamlined bodies that allowed them to swim at high speeds, much like modern-day tuna or swordfish. Their large eyes, some of the biggest in the animal kingdom, gave them excellent vision in the dark depths of the ocean, making them effective hunters even in low-light conditions. Some species of ichthyosaurs were known to have long, narrow snouts filled with sharp teeth, perfect for catching slippery prey like fish and squid. Others had shorter, more robust jaws, suggesting they could crush hard-shelled creatures like ammonites. Their powerful tails, shaped like crescent moons, were their primary source of propulsion, allowing them to chase down prey with incredible bursts of speed. Ichthyosaurs also gave birth to live young, a rare trait among reptiles, and fossilized remains of pregnant ichthyosaurs have been discovered, providing fascinating insights into their reproductive behavior. These adaptations made them some of the most successful marine reptiles of their time, ruling the oceans for millions of years. Oh, and while they may look like dolphins, they were known to behave like sharks, with some of them having razor-sharp bladed teeth, so that they could take chunks out of a larger prey that they came across. And that makes for one very terrifying creature indeed. Number 3. Mosasaurus. I've talked about the Mosasaurus quite a bit on the channel before because it is indeed one of the largest sea creatures to have ever lived, but it's also one of the stars of the original Jurassic World movie. It's the one that jumps out of the water during the entertainment show at the beginning of the film and then finishes off the Indominus Rex during the climax. In the real world, the Mosasaurus had a wide range of lengths, and that depended on what family member that you're talking about. The largest one, and also the one that the Jurassic World film likely based theirs on, could grow up to be about 17 meters in length. Fossil evidence suggests that mosasaurs were apex predators, dominating the oceans during the late Cretaceous period. Their double-hinged jaws and flexible skulls allowed them to swallow prey whole, much like modern-day snakes. They were equipped with sharp, conical teeth that could crush bones and tear through flesh, making them formidable hunters. Mosasaurs likely fed on a variety of marine life, including fish, ammonites, and even other marine reptiles, showcasing their adaptability as predators. Some paleontologists believe that their hunting strategy involved ambushing prey from below, using their powerful tails to propel themselves at incredible speeds. When you put that length with how their bodies were shaped, they were designed for being incredible swimmers, and that likely helped them to get all of the prey they could ever want. Whether they ate land dinosaurs, well, that's up for debate. Number 2. Placodontia. Now, how about we shake things up and I show you something that was still large but not in the same way that the others on this list are. Placodontia actually translates to tablet teeth, and while it was a big and ancient creature, it was only about 3 meters in length at max. That makes it not the biggest one around, but it did have its uses. Its tablet teeth were perfectly adapted for crushing the hard shells of mollusks and crustaceans, which made up the majority of its diet. Placodonts were slow swimmers, relying more on their heavily armored bodies for protection than speed to escape predators. Their armor plating, which resembled that of a turtle, was made of bony scuts that provided a tough, impenetrable shield against attacks. Some species even had flattened, paddle-like limbs, which helped them navigate shallow coastal waters where they foraged for food. Fossil evidence suggests that placodonts were among the first marine reptiles to develop such advanced defenses, paving the way for other heavily armored creatures in the evolutionary timeline. Despite their defensive adaptations, they were not invincible and often fell prey to larger marine predators like ichthyosaurs and pliosaurs. Their fossils have been found in Europe, the Middle East, and China, indicating that they thrived in warm, shallow seas during the Triassic period. For example, once larger predators came into its habitat areas, it had developed armor plating on its back so it could endure their strikes. The ancient waters were quite dangerous, and you needed to be ready for an attack at any given moment. Number 1. Steller's sea cow. This is an ancient version of what we have known to be a sea cow, like a manatee or a dugong. Yet these ones were known to be far bigger in their modern versions, as they could be over 9 meters in length and weigh over 10 tons, which makes for a really big cow. These ancient sea cows, known as Steller's sea cows, were first discovered in the 18th century near the Bering Sea by explorer George Wilhelm Steller. Unlike their modern relatives, they were unable to submerge fully underwater due to their massive size, which made them easy targets for hunters. Their thick, blubber-covered skin provided insulation in the cold waters, but it also made them highly sought after for their meat and oil. Steller's sea cows were known to live in small herds, grazing peacefully on kelp forests, which were abundant in their habitat. Sadly, their docile nature and lack of fear towards humans contributed to their rapid extinction, as they were hunted to extinction within 27 years of their discovery. Today, they serve as a stark reminder of how human activity can devastate even the most resilient species. Yet, like its modern relatives, the creature ate nothing but kelp and seaweed, and it just goes to show that sometimes things just like to snack on smaller things. That's a wrap on our journey through the ocean's depths and the largest sea creatures to have ever roamed the planet. Were you amazed by some of these massive beings? Which ones took you by surprise with their sheer size? Or do you know of another giant that should have made the list? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to check out the other fascinating content on your screen, and I'll see you next time.